Hey, folks, and welcome to yet another episode of WIESTWORLD. Today we have the return of Paul McKee, my good friend, one of the great trombonists of the universe, says. Paul is just the best in so many ways, one of my favorite people and a good friend, a dear friend. And today we're going to get into his compositional persona, arranging, composition, and all the things therein. It's a lot of magic. It's a lot of stuff. So let's get to it right now. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Paul McKee. Look, everybody, it's Paul McKee. He's back. Paul, what's going on?
Hey, just enjoying retired life. Let me give you a quick shot of my companion here.
Oh, there's Norman.
He likes to participate in these sessions, and he does have some good suggestions for voicings. So
yeah, you were saying like cat voicings. We got to get some, maybe like claws on the chalkboard, kind of.
But yeah, glad to be here. Glad to see you, my friend.
Yes, sir. Likewise. The audience is settling down, and we're in the midst of it. So this is billed as Paul McKee Returns. It's part 2. Before we got into your playing and all of that and some shenanigans and stories, we've got a long history, the two of us, ladies and gentlemen, and so many things we could talk about. We talked about trombone last time, but this time it's the composing and arranging persona with the assistance of Norman, the compositional cat there. And so let's man, so you're doing well. Things are going good. You look great.
Yeah, doing okay.
Yeah.
Enjoying retirement. It was funny the date that classes started in August, I felt like weird because I wasn't doing my last day panic class prep usual routine.
Right.
And but boy, it didn't take long before I go, yeah, I'm liking retirement.
It is the best. I highly recommend it to all our friends. One of the cool I remember I got to do an interview with JJ Johnson before he passed for the ITA Journal. And I was asking him questions, and he said the best part about retirement for him, because he had stopped playing, and he said the best part was that there's no calendar. And now I know what he means. I mean, we were talking earlier, we're actually incredibly busy, but we're in charge of the calendar. There's nobody saying, hey, you got a faculty meeting in 10 minutes, man.
Yeah,
Quit.
That is nice.
Oh, it is the best. Or somebody knocking on the door. Mr. McKee, I forgot to do my transcription.
Yeah. Let someone else deal with all that.
Yep. Oh, man. Well, yeah, I've spent the years, trying to figure out how to teach other folks. I get to try to use that on me now and see if I can learn something. It's the best. Retirement. Highly recommended, folks. All right. Well, composition, man, that is a wide open category that could go on forever. It's one of my favorite categories. So I've put together some questions that I want to know about anyway. And we're going to go deep. So let's start off with how and when did you start writing music? When was that? What started?
I got interested in high school, and I remember in jazz band, I would write some intros to some of the tunes that we were playing, like especially for the festivals that happen around holiday time. So I would write like a little holiday short little blurb at the beginning, and then would go into the like a completely unrelated groove style.
Oh,
chart,
nice. Almost like a cue, like a TV cue going into the next scene kind of thing.
Right. Right. Exactly. But, and then, I got interested in it. I think probably the biggest initial epiphany was when I went to the Stan Kenton camps a couple years back in the 70s in Springfield, Missouri College.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I remember the first year I went, I really didn't I wasn't really. I just went because a lot of my friends went, and I wasn't really. I hadn't worked on stuff that much, and but I got a lot of input. Um, Learned a lot of theory, got a lot of trombone input from the guys in the Kenton band, and actually did the stuff that they suggested I work on over the next year. And I went back the second year and got
Wow.
into higher groups and got into Hank Levy's arranging class, which was really
Oh
cool.
man. Was,
And
the first thing that comes to mind, he's going to be all math and mixed meters. Was it that, or he got into just basic stuff?
I think it was basic stuff. He wasn't pushing the
Yeah.
mixed meter stuff much,
Yeah.
but at that point, but you think about his tunes, and most people think immediately of the mixed, the odd meter stuff, but when you listen to his melodies and stuff, they're
Yeah.
really accessible and memorable and hummable,
Right.
and
Yep.
it's not just complicated for its own sake.
Right.
It's
Right.
um, but I remember playing a lot of those charts in the high school big band, and
Yeah, they're almost romantic. They're so memorable. It's
and they
very
have
pretty.
wonderful arcs like
Yep.
ensemble peaks,
Yep.
at the end, and then a nice coming in for a landing ending, and things like that. So that definitely inspired me, and I wrote my first big band chart during that week, and it wasn't very
Wow.
long. It was only about you know it wasn't that long or involved a chart, but it was definitely something, having at that point really heard uh, having heard the Kenton band a couple times, it was definitely in that style. Started out had some trombone section stuff in the beginning, and had a little
Yeah.
peak at the end, and it was. I remember it was. I called it First Attempt,
Ah.
and it was on the Friday of the camp. The Kenton band would play through the student charts,
Wow.
and so
That's
I
cool.
had the Kenton band read my chart and Stan Kenton up there introducing me. That was one of the
Whoa.
famous mispronunciations of my name done by
What'd he
some of
come up with?
he came up with well, he asked me my name, and I was probably super intimidated and mumbled it, but he said
Yeah,
called
yeah.
Phil Homeke. And then I
Phil Homeke.
and then I corrected him, and it was it was on a I have it on a cassette tape somewhere. I have no idea where that is,
Oh,
um
that would be great.
but just hearing that band play. And the chart, was okay. There were some things that were very, new guy mistakes here and there, but it wasn't transposed wrong or anything. So it sounded
That's
good,
great.
and it was like the thrill of a lifetime. So I think
Oh my gosh,
that's the
yeah.
point where I got the bug, and I started writing. And all through um, the college, I took arranging courses and studied on my own stuff like that. But really, a lot of the writing, this is what I tried now that I'm retired, I have to use it in the past tense with my students, is to
Right.
get them inspired to write music like for the big band, just because
Mhm.
they can, not because it's part of a class or anything, but just because
Right.
you have this opportunity to
You
write
can
for
edit.
a ensemble, you
Yeah.
know, and
So we've got, like 2 elements there, the early, kind of storytelling melodically that Hank Levy could have inspired you with, but then now we've got the big majestic, orchestrations in the Kenton band. How did you get in the earliest stages, how did you even know how to, transpose and orchestrate? Was that just kind of you hear something and you tried to
it
do it, or
was
you had a book?
I remember there was a theory book that they used at the camp, but I don't think there was any. I mean, it was mostly notes that I took in Levy's arranging class, I think,
Cool.
and then I just asked around, about things like ranges or not, well, ranges and transposition and things like that. So I kind of,
See, that is cool. You were asking cats. You were asking people
yeah, I went out and
directly.
pursued it on my own and talking
Yep.
to the, you know, players and teachers and stuff and mentors, and so I kind of started picking it up, and then I uh, think there was. probably some arranging text in college, but I wrote the whole time I was in college, tried to write something for every concert just because it was fun. It was just
Yeah,
so
yeah.
rewarding to hear you know what that's like, hearing the chart that,
Oh,
you've
man,
written
just to
get
hear
played.
it. Can say, and back in those days, there's a whole nother element that I wanted to get into because now we're talking pre-computer times, in the 70s and 80s. There's the whole other element of the specific pencils, types of paper, erasers, ink, goof strips, the whole thing, nomenclature, calligraphy. So, did you get into? Yeah, I imagine you getting into some very specific things in that area back then.
Well, I remember when I started buying, big band score paper. That was such a
The
cool thing.
best. Wasn't that
Just
the best?
and there to me, as much as I love, computer notation programs,
Yeah.
especially as a left-hander copying parts, by
That's
hand,
right, we both
and
suffer the left-hand thing, yes. Oh, we'll talk about that, folks.
and, you know, I still miss the, um, satisfaction of completing a page of the score, and, writing, I had my little half ruler straight edge that because I can't write a freehand straight line to save my life,
I
and
can't
so
either.
I'd make it look all neat and beats lined up, and it was very satisfying, and I don't get that as I mean, the convenience of the notation program is significant, and you also, um, can hear, stuff played back, even if it's a cheesy computer
Right,
playback
yeah,
sound. You
yeah,
can
oh, that's
hear voicings and lines and get
yep,
a sense of things, which is those things are huge. They're very convenient, but the just getting the I mean, I think one thing is back in the day that
right,
you had to really want to do it to deal with all the rigors of filling out a score and,
right, and then
copying the parts.
copying parts is like, "Oh my gosh." I used to think about the magical elders that had access to copyists and things, people, "Oh, I just send it off for my copies." What? It would inevitably have to be an all-nighter copying parts, and then you might screw up the copying of the parts, and yeah, you had to really want to hear this music to do that.
Yeah.
That's a good point, man.
Yeah, and I also recall, like, specific, composers would kinda have their copyists that they'd work with all the time. So
Yeah,
you'd pass out a chart in big band. Like, I remember it with Bill Holman charts specifically, is that they always looked like Bill Holman charts, it's like
right, yeah,
this is the
somebody's hand.
copyist. And so, you kind of associated the look of the manuscript with the composer, you know?
Some of our pals in LA, I'm sure could tell us who that copyist was, back in the day for folks listening that are have grown up with computers. I mean, back in the day, as we're talking about, it didn't generate score paper. You had to go out and buy it, and part paper, you had to buy that, and you had to do it all by hand, which had a lot of charm that we're talking about here, that affects the music a certain way. And but then you'd have people whose jobs, they were copyists. They were really good at copying the music and had a system. You hear about guys in Chicago and New York, and the LA copyists that did Holman stuff. That's a whole world. That's a lot of those people have now become experts in computer notation, like, say,
Oh,
John
yeah.
Blaine or folks like that. They went from hand copying to now they're computer guys, but that's crazy. So we're in the early days, and you're writing now, and you're starting to write some stuff for every concert in college. This would be in Iowa.
Yeah, this is at Northern Iowa, University of Northern
Yeah.
Iowa, Cedar Falls. There were a couple other folks, and, there wasn't a jazz major at that time. I was a music ed major,
Ah,
but everything I was doing was jazz focused, and there were some
yeah.
other writers in the community there who were writing stuff, so it was almost like we had a little bit of competition to come up with chords, and so which was great. It was great motivation. It was the rewards to me were worth all the work, you know. And plus the other thing was back then, like you're looking for a maybe a big band uh trombone feature and there weren't, I remember for a long time the state of the art trombone feature was Tooth's chart on
Oh,
Spring Can
spring.
Hang You Up
Yes.
Most
Yep.
because it had the ballad thing, and then there was another one like theme from Ice Castles.
Oh, right. Was
Da,
that a
da, da,
Steinmeier?
da, 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 that thing.
Yeah.
And
Right.
there weren't a lot of trombone features. So if you wanted a hip tune arranged for trombone, you had to do it yourself. If you wanted
Right.
to, which is which is fine. You can create. I always tell my students, you can create the world that you want to live in as a
Ah,
musician by
yeah.
writing your own music, and then you can manipulate it however you want to. So I'm sure that's something that you discovered and I
Oh,
discovered.
yeah, sure. Yeah, that's man, there's something about wanting the music and going after it as a means to an end and really desiring it. Yeah, these things can't be given. They're innate. It's I want to do this, and so to help me find a way to do it, that's the best way to learn this stuff. So let's continue on with influences and stuff. So you're starting to hear all kinds of things at Iowa, the charts you're playing, and soon you get introduced to some other folks that probably became big influences on you and ways you wanted to write. And how did that start?
Well, I think probably for a lot of us, a lot of people who wanted to write charts, one of the earliest influences was probably Sammy Nestico stuff,
Right?
Lucy
Oh,
Sammy
sure.
Nestico stuff.
Yep.
Um, the lessons I took from that have lasted a lifetime and have proven to be very um, useful. Just as far as like one of the main things that I talk about in like arranging class stuff is writing melodies for each part, writing melodic
Oh,
content so you don't
yep.
have the leftover part with like all the repeated notes and then random intervals and things like that.
Right.
And so trying to um, make logical melodic lines for, third trombone and second tenor and fourth trumpet. And because if people if the players can, you know, feel like they're playing melodically, they're getting some melodic content in their parts, they're going to sound better faster. And you're going to spend less time rehearsing and more time playing, performing.
Well, I got to tell you, I noticed that in your charts a lot, and I've heard people talking about that. Like say Bob Lark did a bunch of your charts recently with one of his reunion bands, and I was playing the third part, so I'm on a part I'm not used to playing, and it was like bo bo dwe dat bo do 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 ye ba da. It was the melodies were still there. It was fun to play. I enjoyed playing the that comfortable third part. And who told me once? I heard that Billy Strayhorn used to walk around his rehearsals and just ask people, do you like your part? Do you enjoy playing your part? And ask him questions. And so that's man, thinking about the Cats specifically, that's huge.
Well, and, people are going to want to play your music if they feel like
Right.
they're having an opportunity to contribute, you know, in what they're playing. And again, it's going to be, you know, less rehearsal and more actual playing through the music, you know.
Right.
Now, obviously there's situations where it's harder to do that, to write good melodic content um for the parts. Like if you look at like some of Thad's harmony and some of his solis, like sax solis and things like that, there's so much depth in the harmony that you are going to have some parts that are challenging to learn. And
Famously,
like
like the second tenor and stuff sounds atonal and all
or
that.
Toshiko Akiyoshi, we played a lot of her
Yep.
charts back in the day, and there were a lot of tricky, you know, lots of enharmonic. You have an E sharp and then an F flat, and I mean, there was some stuff that made it tricky. it's I think in general, I think it was a good rule for me to learn and follow. That was, and then of course, you get into starting back in high school, discovering stuff for the first time. So like playing Thad charts for the first time
Oh, man.
and just recognizing this Thad sound, you know,
Right.
and starting to, I think this is another thing I encourage my students to do is I get up there after rehearsal, I'd hear something that it might just been uh, 2 bars or something, but it really
Yeah.
grabbed
Yeah.
me and I liked it, and get up there and looking at the score, you know,
Boom.
and
Go
figuring
to the
out why
grocery
it's
store.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, and
Yep.
it's like, I'm gonna steal that, you know?
Boom. Boom. Yeah, once again, it's a thing you want. It's you're not trying to come up with a sound that you think will be cool somehow. It's, "Ooh, what was that? I want that. Let me figure out what it is." And yeah, it's that extra step of going up to the score. Um, Man, that is killing. Remember when that book came out? I think it freaked all of us out. The Ray Wright book that had, inside the score. That was I still use that. Yeah, and I have yet to use it in its entirety where I'll do a whole chart and try to copy a that. I'll just grocery shop and say, "Oh, what was that? Bep, bop. What was that one chord?" Like I actually wrote this down. I wanted to bring this up. The thing that you and I would do, we would hear a tune and you would say, "Oh, that'd make a good big band chart." You do like
Right, definitely.
the drop two.
The brass thing, and then,
Right, right.
what
Yeah,
are we
yeah,
doing
yeah.
here?"
How do they connect the saxes and the yep, yep. That was the universal sign for that'd make a great big band chart.
Well, I always talk about with playing one thing that it's important to mention to me is that playing and writing are 2 sides of the same coin, and
Yep,
I've learned so much
yep.
about playing from writing, and I've learned a lot about writing from playing.
Mm,
And, you learn about, like, when you're writing, developing motives
right.
and creating good voice leading and things like that that you can apply to your playing. And then, of course, playing is where you do the creative stuff and you come up with interesting, melodic ideas that you may adapt into a composition. So,
Sure.
but I always talk about those things. I always think about like the pie chart,
Mm,
you know, and and in your playing, you've got like different size slices of your different influences. Like you might be like, I'm a big Carl Fontana guy, so I had a big old
yeah.
wedge of Carl in my trombone pie,
Right,
and
right.
then maybe some smaller pieces of some other players that have been, we all have a big chunk of JJ in our DNA of playing. And then and the same thing applies to writing. I hear like I just heard Darcy James Argue's band in
Mm.
Denver a
Oh,
couple
that's
years
right.
ago,
Yeah. Mhm.
and his writing is awesome. It's wonderful, but you can hear like I heard at several spots. I heard some definite heavy Gil Evans influence,
Yeah. Yep.
which is to me it's cool. It's because he's
Right.
integrated it. It's not like he's cloning Gil Evans or and trying to copy it, but he's got these moments that only a Gil Evans moment could deliver the energy and the emotion of that
Yes.
moment. Just like that one Thad, the double diminished voicing is what
You
you
gotta
need at
use it.
a specific
Yes,
moment.
you have to. Right. That's and that ties in with your the concept of playing and writing being the same thing. An improviser will have a lick that he'll a favorite motive that somebody else has been using and they'll work it into their playing. Same thing with the double diminished voicing, with crunchy voicing of Brookmeyer and a bassy ending, however it might be. Uh, yeah, it's the same thing, and it always comes from you want to get this into your toolbox. You want to learn this stuff.
You want to assimilate it. It's like that
That
Clark
right.
Terry. What's that
Yep.
Clark Terry thing?
It's
Uh,
he changed it to he used to say imitate, then he changed it to emulate, assimilate, and innovate.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I mean,
The
that's
process.
so that you can detect. Like I can tell. I was up in Greeley last weekend and listening to Steve Wilson was a guest playing with the faculty
Oh, nice.
rhythm section, and I he's got, I listened to him. I go, man, there's a lot of Cannonball Adderley in his,
Mm,
but
yeah.
it's not like he's copying it. It's
Right.
part of his DNA. It's I always uh, careful about saying that to somebody. Oh, you sound just like Cannonball Adderley. I would never say that to anybody.
Right.
I
Right.
would say it sounds like you've checked out a lot of Cannonball in your years of development as a player, or
Yeah.
anyone listening to me would mention Carl, or you know,
Sure.
and I think I consider that a compliment, you know. But I think that in this that pie chart we were talking about, there's always a
Yes.
slice reserved for you, for your
Mm,
input, and the way that you manage all your influences to make a chart. Because I think the great compliment that anyone can pay a musician is saying, "Oh, I maybe heard your a chart on the radio, or I heard a trombone soloist on the radio, and
yeah.
I thought it was you."
Ah,
And
that's
I
the
pulled
best.
pulled over to wait till they said, and if you can cut out a tiny little niche of the world for yourself, in spite of, all the influences are going to be there, but then it's also the way you manage all those things that becomes like your sound, and you become recognizable. I
Right.
think that's when I mean, look at all the great, especially some of the great old players like the Ben Websters and the Johnny Hodge, some of the Duke guys,
Yeah.
who didn't go through much formal training, but uh, had developed a sound that was uniquely theirs. You could tell Clark Terry or Ben Webster or Miles or whatever in like two notes usually, just
Right.
because
Yep.
they've transcended the instrument and they actually sound like they're speaking to you.
Yeah, and just like you listening to Darcy and hearing some Gil, it's the same thing with writing. You can tell, you can hear a very specific sound instantly. We could be listening to the radio, and it might be some deep cut that we haven't heard of Gil's, which in your case, I don't think there is one, but with your collection, but we would just by the nature of it, the sound, we say, oh, that's got to be Gil. Or somebody really who studied it a lot. Well, let's get into some of your process. So you've gone through all these influences, and you go out with Woody, and you're hanging with Fed Shock and just all these other cats who are writing, and everybody's sharing ideas and stuff. But now when it's time for Paul to write a chart, what's the process? What's step one?
Well, Norman's back. Hey, Norman.
Oh, Norman, well, he has to be involved, I would think, in this process.
Oh yeah, he's the stop thinking about music and pet me for a while, man.
They have a
Uh,
way of grounding us, don't they?
okay, I guess we're going to get a little tail in the face here.
Well,
He gets right where he knows right. He can slap me with his tail. Um, I think it depends on if it's a original composition or an arrangement. And hey, buddy,
you guys have to see the video version of this just to understand what's going on here. We're enjoying. So some folks just listen to this in their cars, so they're not they're not going to understand why you went. That was right when Norman's tail was about to be inhaled.
I'm sitting at the dining room table here and doing this, and this is a spot where usually uh, Norman will come out and flop up on the table, and you'll have a
Ah,
little love time. And so when I sit at the table, he immediately assumes that it's time for that. There,
right.
he's settling now. So I think with like process, I think for original compositions, I always like to start it out as like a small group tune. And
Ah,
like, I did this a lot when I was in Chicago in the 90s, playing at the Green Mill with Brad Good's band
oof.
every Wednesday night. And it was always a really good rhythm section. And I'd bring in some new tunes and we'd play through them, and um, the rhythm section would add some of their interpretation to it, which is I always try to write like simple, like
Uh huh.
I like when I'm doing the arrangement and I want to do reharms and stuff, I'll do all my arranger boys stuff, but
Right.
when I get to the blowing, I want it to be simple so that people can have input. And I feel like when you get too many specific um, chord
Mm,
progressions, and everything has got all the extensions marked into it. It doesn't, you don't really have a lot of interpretive room sometimes as a soloist. So,
right, right.
unless it's something really specific I want, I might just write C7 instead of C7 sharp 9 sharp 11 13 or something like that.
Right, right.
And let the players put in. So I get a lot of ideas, and or they might stick a cool little pedal in or something. They would come up with some ideas
Yeah.
that I would literally take notes on, and once the tune kind of fleshed itself out as a small group tune, is when I would then maybe, okay, now this would actually work nicely as a big band chart, and then I would start elevating it to that. With arrangements, I always try to I try to basically my goal is to not ruin the tune, you know,
Mm,
over
yeah.
overwrite and over reharmonize and everything, and try to keep,
Right.
there's a reason that I'm doing an arrangement. It's because the tune is a good tune already and I don't need to ruin it, but I also want to add my, you might do things like you do, like change up the groove or the meter or the do a little harmonic stuff here and there, or writing intros and endings and things like that. So but I with well, both original compositions and arrangements, I would have a like a lead sheet, and I would put the tune and the changes on there, and then I would go through and have all the little things that I might add to it. Like I would write in like maybe a chromatic 2/5 or something at one point, or a some different things. And so basically that lead sheet would then be cluttered with ideas. Uh,
Ah,
and I'd probably end up using, maybe 15 or 20% of those ideas,
wow. So
Um,
that's pre-score. That's sketching, and this is another pencil to paper thing that it's an advantage. Really, you're sketching stuff before you even get to the score.
I really try to use computer notation as a more of a transcription device than a
Mm,
composition device.
mm,
Um, I mean, like if I'm writing a soli, like harmonizing a sax soli, I can do that on
yeah,
the computer, because then I can try different. I don't really like the way this thing sounded, so I'm going to try something different, and then hear it
yeah.
right away, which is nice. But with a
That
lot of
is nice.
conceptual
Yeah.
things, I try to have an idea of it before I start delving into the computer notation. You
Well,
know,
this brings up the age old question of with or without keyboard. How often do you do things just in the theater of the mind, or letting the keyboard tell you what's up? And
well, one of my uh, regrets in my musical career is that I didn't become a better keyboard player. you
same
know,
here.
and I can come up with great voicings all day, but um, as far as writing, linear melodies and things like that, a lot of that it came from playing my instrument, but also I
Mm,
found that this is actually another big epiphany, is that I would just get away from everything, just like maybe take a walk, or I'd be in my car
mm,
doing something completely, no keyboards, no computers, and I would be thinking about it in my head,
right,
and
right.
and trying to hear things, and a lot of that, I with my students, I would talk about some of that. It's creative visualization, I think it's called, and I
Uh,
had a couple like books on that. And it would be, and this gets into also the area of like some of the inner game books.
right.
The
Yep.
inner game of tennis to me was a hugely helpful book, just because I played some tennis at the time, and it also
Ah,
the parallels between music and tennis were really clear.
the
But
Zen
I think
aspect.
that's a really good book. And like I'd get stuck on a chart, like I'm not sure what to do next, and it's like you kind of hit a brick wall. And this usually would happen when I'd be sitting at the keyboard or really focused on the chart, and it's just like one of those things where you're so wrapped up in wanting to do something, the incredible hippest thing that's ever been done, on
Right,
the
right.
chart. Yeah, hello, sir. Um, uh, that you kind of get overwhelmed. It's like you got the big 64 crayon box and you're not sure where to go, and so
So you use all of them, and it's too much. I
Yeah,
remember at a jazz camp once, I was writing some stuff, and I had all these things I was so proud of. I was like, "Oh, check this thing out and this thing out," and then you came up and said, "You know, it'd really be nice if we just had a page that was blank, and just let the rhythm section." That's a great idea. So I just like got rid of about 30 bars of stuff, and boom, the thing just started breathing. So yeah, just because you've got the 64 crayons, you don't have to use them.
well, I always would what I would do is I would kind of almost like you're meditating on the music, and I'm thinking about, like, in my mind, I would just, like, put myself like I'm sitting in the audience listening to this chart being played,
Oh, that's
and
good.
and trying to hear it in like, in real time in my head, and very often you'd get to that point where you hit the brick wall and
Yep.
something incredibly obvious or logical would reveal itself, that you were trying so hard that it was getting blocked up and coming out of the imagination.
Oh,
So
man,
it's kind of it's gets into some Zen stuff a little bit, but it's
does.
kind of like allowing the music to I feel like there's so
Mm,
much music that's already in our head that we just have
right.
to find a way to get it out, you know? And
Yeah, when you think of the input over all these years, all the bands we've played in and sides we've listened to, there's a lot of music in there.
yeah, and it's it's so easy to overwrite. Like I have,
Mhm.
I think of a couple, like I call them my grad student year charts,
Yeah,
and that has so much stuff in it, like every possible thing I could pack, every meter change and giant steps changes and
right,
instrumentation
right.
and doubles and groove changes and I remember it was one of my charts I wrote back then was called Tsunami, and it was pretty
Aha!
fat. It was crazy. It was people liked it, but I always felt like it just seems like, what is this about? It's about too many things. And I always
Yeah,
try to,
yeah,
like, with playing, and again, playing and writing, both of these things, I think about, like, you read a book, and you start reading a book, and like a fiction book, and in the first chapter, the author introduces maybe half a dozen characters, not 100 characters, you know,
right.
but enough information, less information developed more fully so that you start to care and have
Ah,
connection with these characters so that it's not just everything at once dumped at your face. So I
that's
always
brilliant.
think about, like, to think about the things that are related to the tune and try to develop fewer ideas more fully, and then have them come back later. Maybe the intro becomes an interlude and becomes an ending, or oops,
Yeah.
sorry about that, Norman, knocked over my
Ugh,
drink. Norman didn't like
Oliver
that.
Norman.
Now I'm going to get whipped. Okay.
Oh, oh,
um
oh.
Sorry, buddy. um and I think the same thing with playing and improvising is trying to
Yeah.
make it be about something. And, like, I want the people who are, like, super tuned in, harmonic, hip, people who are really in the jazz zone to enjoy the music, but I also want people who know nothing about it to enjoy it.
Mm,
And by giving them
yep.
something to grab onto, and that's usually something melodic and something that comes back,
Ah,
over
you're
the course of
telling
the
you're
part.
telling yeah, you're telling stories there. It's a narration, it's a narrative.
So, I think it's in some ways I try to think about the less is more
Mm,
approach, but then also having things that get developed, you know,
right.
and maybe
Well
transformed a little bit or something like that.
well, the fun thing is we're gonna get into just a moment here to, some specifics, so we can talk about some specifics of development and ideas. Before we do that, though, here's a surprise. We're gonna do a little break. This is a break. So, technology is in our way a little bit today. We were gonna do a commercial and have some fun, but let's not do that. Let's do this instead in the interest of time. Uh Here's a new thing. I don't know if you've seen Stephen Colbert's the Colbert questionnaire.
Sure.
That bit, yeah. So I've come up with, and I've got a fanfare. I wish I could show it to you. It's going to have to be after the fact, so you can just have to
Okay.
react to this. but it's called the WIESTWORLD Inquisition. And it's the same concept of let's get to know Paul a little bit better with 7 questions. I call it the 7 Qs to heaven, 7 steps.
Ah,
See, it's
what
like a
you did there.
I'm stealing from the best is what it is. So anyway, 7 Qs. This is, and here's our fanfare, WIESTWORLD Inquisition. How about that fanfare? A little flat 5 at the end. Oh, it's gold. Gold. All right, here's the first one. The WIESTWORLD Inquisition. You're only the second person to do this. Brad Lely did the first one last month. First question, then you can answer it directly or go off into something else. But you try to answer it quickly. So first one, favorite superhero. Now, this could be a personal thing, comics, movies, a person you know, literature. Favorite superhero. He's
Well,
going
of course,
deep.
when you say superhero, I tend to think of the Marvel and DC
Yeah,
world.
me too. Me too.
And that's a tough one because I kind of started out. I was big into comic books,
Yeah,
as a preteen, and I started out as a DC guy,
yeah, me too.
Justice League and such, and then I kind of morphed into Marvel land and got into
Yeah,
that stuff a little bit more. But favorite superhero though, I would probably have to go with the Flash. Was my big
cool.
favorite,
He could do some amazing things that has not been brought out in movies, like vibrating through atoms, going through the walls and stuff. And
Yeah, it's been a little frustrating the Flash series
yes,
they've attempted. Um, and then the movie and the character and everything, it hasn't been quite satisfying to me. They haven't quite nailed it. Just like they've been having trouble with Green Lantern too,
right,
trying to get it
right.
right. And the Fantastic Four, and obviously
I,
all those.
ugh,
I haven't seen the new one, Fantastic Four. I'm anxious
I
to check.
haven't either. I got to check it out. With the whole retro thing, alternate universe. That's great, man. The Flash. And there was an old Flash too. Had like the World War I helmet and everything.
Yeah,
And
the Golden
you're-
Age Flash.
Golden
Jay
Age Flash.
Jay
Woo!
is his name. Jay, can't remember his
Oh,
last.
we'll have to look it up. We'll
But
edit, post edit,
yep,
and
Sam. My For those who don't know, my stepson Sam, when
yep,
he was.
great
Uh,
trombonist and writer.
oh yeah,
Yep,
that's a whole nother show
it is.
about
Yes.
Stevie. Um, but he did one Halloween. He went out as Golden Age Flash. We found
Oh
like
man.
a pith helmet and
Yeah.
put cut out the wings, put the wings
Yep.
on, painted it silver, and
Ah,
he had the whole outfit and everything, and that was
how cool,
but
man. He had little wings on the feet too, I think, or something, and ankles.
yeah.
Flash.
So, how about
Golden
you?
Age Flash. Oh, for me, it probably starts with Superman. I just like he's so deep, all this stuff, and I love the modern Superman. Have you seen the new movie?
Yeah.
Oh, I absolutely loved it, and I love that he said that the new punk rock was believing in the best in everybody. It was like, what? This is a real. I always dug that about the Superman. He just seemed like such a nice guy.
Well, I like
Uh,
the new accessible Superman too. Kind of
yeah,
like,
yeah,
you
yep.
know.
Kind of a dork, kind of
Yeah.
fun and nice guy. All right. Well, let's see. Let's go on. We got 6 more steps to go here. So, what is your go-to recording? This is a recording that you just keep coming back to. Recording of any kind of thing. We're talking music. What's the go-to? You just find yourself, man, okay, I keep coming back to this one.
A specific recording.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
hmm. Well, I think about like um, big band stuff like Consummation, Fad.
mm,
That record I've always loved that one. Um, there's a Gil Evans record I've always loved. and it's kind of more of an obscure one. It's called The Individualism of Gil
Oh,
Evans,
sure. Yep.
and it has, like, oh, Elvin and Wayne Shorter and, like, all these, but it's got some really cool arranging
Yeah.
on there.
Yeah.
One record I find myself that's kinda timeless that I still recommend to people is, it's a Shirley Horn record, and,
Ah,
what is that? I'm blanking on it. I'll come up with it in a minute. But
all
it's
right.
all, Johnny Mandel did all the arrangements. It's like a studio orchestra.
Wow. I'm gonna have to get I don't have that one. I'm gonna
Oh,
check it
it's
out.
beautiful. It's just gorgeous, and I'm gonna think of the name of it here.
Yeah, and then I'll pop it in. We'll edit. You could even look it up if you want. We can stop and edit
um, this is usually
this.
when I try to have a memory victory over a Google victory.
Yes,
I'm trying to remember
forcing it
things,
to happen.
and
I
sometimes
I
I'll
s-
start typing in the title, and then it'll come to me, but,
yes. Yeah, I spent all of last night trying to remember the name Benedict Arnold, and I kept coming up with Aaron Burr. I had the A. What is it? What do you got?
called Here's to Life.
Here's to life, Shirley Horn.
Excellent, just beautiful arranging by, and Johnny Mandel, another person who has his own sound. Like, if you've ever, um, seen the movie The Sandpiper, you ever seen that
Yeah,
movie?
yeah.
With
I
all
have. I
the
don't remember it, but yeah.
it's got, it kind of it's all based around The Shadow of Your Smile
Mm,
is
mhm,
the tune he wrote for the movie, but the movie itself uses little pieces and snippets from the tune, over the soundtrack. But the opening, um 'cause I think it's like Big Sur visuals, and then you've got this, his version of Miles and Gil Evans, um,
mm.
with Jack Sheldon playing the trumpet solo, and it's just this beautiful opening to the movie.
Wow.
The
I
first,
remember that part,
yeah,
yeah.
mm,
Yep.
I mean, just watch the opening credits on that movie because
I'm gonna check that out again.
just an
Man,
okay movie, but the music is just, and I think he may have won a, I don't know, I thought he won something, did he win an Oscar for that score or something? I don't know.
wow.
But, that's,
What?
you know,
I
but
tell
I
you,
lis
the
go ahead.
Inquisition could be a whole show. We're making a whole show out of this. This is great.
Well, and, I'm always curious to, do you have a go-to? Like, you need to get excited and fired up to do something, and
Yeah, it depends on what I'm looking to do. Like if I want to go nostalgic and feel great about trombone playing, I'll put on Herbie Green's 21 trombones. If he walked into my life, that specific tune just freaked me out so much, or it might be, a Thad thing, or Chicago, it might be a Chicago album. Usually it's nostalgic things that
yeah,
that I want to Blood, Sweat and Tears 3. I love the
yeah,
arrangements on that. Uh yeah, those go-to albums. All right, here's a couple easy ones that won't be so deep. Favorite season of the year and why?
I have to say I think it's fall for me, just because I like you know, it comes I like it when the temperatures cool off a little bit, and, you know, um, pre-winter, and start, dressing up in layers, and, and of course, I just was out doing a couple errands yesterday and just noticed how gorgeous everything is right now. All the
Right.
trees
Yep.
changing colors, and the smells, and, the burning leaves smell that you don't really smell that
Oh,
growing up.
that's
That
the
was a big,
best. Yep. That was
um,
huge. Yeah.
so definitely fall for me. How about you?
Same thing. Same thing for the same reasons. And then once again, nostalgia. When I was a kid, I started out in Cleveland of all places in Avon Lake, and that was it's a very deciduous place, and everybody burned their leaves down by the street, and the smell was in the whole neighborhood. Oh, fall, man, it's just the best.
It lists some very specific, early memories.
Yeah, it really does. Smell and sound will just bring those memories back. All right, here's a good one for you. Best ice cream flavor.
Oh man,
Tough one.
that is a kind of a tough one because I do have a sweet tooth, and I like, you know, chocolatey things and peanut buttery things. But I also am a big fan of like a really nice, like a raspberry sorbet or something like that.
Ooh, yeah. Man, we're cut from the same cloth on that one right there. Both areas. I mean, you could go either direction. I mean, my go-to right now is this chocolate peanut butter, Breyer's chocolate peanut butter that we get from uh, Mariano's here in Chicago. Woof, gotta have it every night. It's just yeesh. All right, two more
Okay.
steps here. Favorite sports team or athlete specifically?
Whew. Well,
Yeah,
I'd have to say, having um, lived in Chicago through most of the 90s, I have
yeah,
to say Michael Jordan. I mean,
that was it.
can't beat
Yeah.
that, that, um, actually saw him a couple times at I was playing a gig with Brad at
Oh,
what was it, the Cotton Club in kind of the south side of Chicago, and they had live music out front with the bar, and then they had like a disco hang in the back. And I remember Michael Jordan walked in with his entourage once while we were playing, and of course went straight to the disco. Damn it! But
yeah, that
um,
was must have been incredible. Yeah, I remember we've talked about it before, the jazz camps that we would do where we'd watch the NBA playoffs every night after the concert and watch Jordan. That was incredible
like
stuff.
all those amazing, when the game where he was sick and
Yep,
played
the flu
incredibly,
game. Yep,
and like all that stuff. So, um, sports teams, I don't know. I like I have a lot that I've grown up with that I like, and I try to be a Broncos fan since I live here, and
sure, they're doing
and
good now. Yeah,
but I've always been like always liked the Bears and the
yep, me
Chicago's
too.
teams,
Yep,
and of course the Cubs.
yep,
Um, and then I like Kansas City. I've enjoyed
right, that's right.
their playing in the last few years, but I don't know. I mean, I kind of and I also I like to watch college sports too. Basketball and football and stuff.
Right, right.
I'm not super insanely fanboy about any specific thing, but I
Yeah,
just
it's kinda it's healthy not to be. I get wrapped up in the Cubs too much, occasionally, and, yeah, that way lies madness. You gotta just let that go.
yeah.
But,
But I mean, going to Wrigley,
that's the
this
best,
that this
and it's
exists
it
in this super
ah,
crowded, busy town. You can go to this beautiful park,
yes,
and
and it's so cool living close to it as we do. Deborah and I live about 2, 3 miles from it, so I'll go get a haircut or something or go grocery shopping, and oh, there's Wrigley right there. I'm still not used to that. It's just the coolest. All right, we're going to wrap it up with we're going to go way deep now. What is the meaning of life? Just a
so
little question, little
trying to think
closer.
trying to think of what the Doctor
Uh,
Who
hi-
is. Is it 47 or something like that? I can't remember.
42, I think, was the
42.
Hitchhiker's Guide. Yeah,
Oh yeah. I think for me, it's just trying to be happy in all the
yeah,
trials and tribulations and all the challenges that come up, and trying to be, you know, grateful and thankful for all that you get to do. Like I look at my um playing and my music career. I've been so fortunate. I've been so blessed to have all these wonderful things, like great teaching gigs and playing gigs and being on Woody's band, which like a highlight of a lifetime and things like that. I've been lucky. I always talk about like you know people using the word luck, because I always say, and I don't think I didn't make this up, but I like to use a lot, is luck is when opportunity meets preparation.
duh. That's the best. That's the best.
That's a good
Yeah,
thing to live by. But also to me, uh, is not carrying grudges and carrying negative energy and trying to let all that stuff go. And that's part of it's part of happiness and also health too,
Right.
and
Right.
and just
Well,
trying to enjoy the ride, enjoy the process.
can't go wrong with that. And I tell you what, we are at an hour right now, and rather than to go, the original idea was then to go through four tunes and discuss and do all that. It feels to me like we've come to a very, very good place here, and we might as well. You know what we can do? We can do like a 60 minutes thing and go deep. And I'll have a separate presentation with the four pieces that we were going to talk about, uh, and getting into specifics of that. Because it's already been an hour. I don't want to take up your whole day, but you want to
Yeah, I
wrap it
got
up
nothing
right
going
here?
on. I got nothing going on. You know, you can take up, and that's what I love about retirement. I said, okay,
Isn't that the best? It's the best. We could. I'll tell you what. We'll go deep right now for those that want to take a break. It's intermission time, and then I'll do an edit and come right back. And if you want, we'll go ahead and just do these four tunes. Just talk about them.
um,
It's up to you.
yeah, that's fine. We don't
Okay.
have to, we don't have to go super deep, but
Right.
there's most of them have a relatively succinct story connected to them. So
Yes. Yeah. Okay. That'd be great.
It's time to go to the lobby for a brief intermission. We'll be right back.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
All right then. Well, let's instead of the lightning round, and then there's the lightning sound right there. We can't hear it right now. But instead of that, as I did on the old Leadology podcast, this is now a podcast called WIESTWORLD. So we're doing different stuff. And in this case, we're just going to take four pieces that Paul has written or arranged and just get into them a little bit. Let's start with one of my favorites, Bitter Jug, an original. And I want to know about the piece. But first of all, the recording we're going to use is the Jeff Benedict Big Band, Dave Caffey conducting. Why don't you tell us about that band and that session in general?
that was well. I've known Jeff for a long time. We were grad students together at University of Texas at Austin, and so
Mm,
we've been friends for a long time. And he's also a good big band writer, and he um, wanted to do a. He's done a couple recordings now, big band recordings of his stuff, but also featuring some other things written by some of the players, on the recording. So um, it was, and he's LA based guy, so it was obviously he had you know more than enough competent players to do a recording out there, but he was nice enough to invite me to come in and participate and bring a couple charts. So I'm,
nice.
great. He's been a good friend, and I appreciate that. So, um,
That's
you know,
wonderful.
yeah.
You had great cats on the record. In this one specifically, Matt Harris is playing the piano solo. We get to hear some Paul. We get to hear some Paul on this one playing. So tell us about Bitter Jug, the contrafact, and how you went about it, the story behind it.
Well, I like one thing is that I kind of like I kind of have fun writing contrafacts, taking an existing chord progression and writing a different melody or maybe changing it up a little bit. In this case, I've always liked the tune Jitterbug Waltz and like playing over the changes. And I started playing around a little bit and thought, wow, what if we move that to from 3/4 to 4/4
Ah,
and made it kind of an up tempo bopish kind of a head. So I was thinking, one of the things I think about, of course, titling tunes is always a challenge.
right,
But I thought about just taking, bit jitterbug and making bitter jug, just a real
right.
basic little, you know. And then so when I came up with bitter jug, I thought about uh, Gene Ammons, whose nickname was Jug. and
Right.
thought about the kind of thing that he might like. He did a bunch of records like with Stevie Stitt, like a two tenor battle thing that were great. And
Yeah.
so I was thinking about a head that would kind of work for that in that kind of a context, with the
Mm.
uh, Gene Ammons kind of a bluesy vibe over the
Right.
tune. And so, um, that was another situation where I um, wrote out the tune, played through it a few times in a small group, tweaked it a little bit until I was happy with it
Mm.
and put it into a chart. Um, that's one of those things where going through the process of writing the chart, very often, I think a lot of writers, and I encourage my students to do this, is don't try to write chronologically, like bar one, bar two, bar three all the time.
Oh, sure.
Fill in a section, like maybe you write out the way you want to do the head, and you don't worry about the intro leading up to that at this point. Because, an introduction, you've got to know what you're introducing, right?
Yep.
And then
Yep.
also you decide as if maybe I can recycle this introduction and use it for an ending or some kind of a interlude. So,
Yeah.
um, and then of course I was thinking, since the nature of the tune lent itself well to writing a sax solo, and I love writing sax solos, and
It's a good one. This is specifically a great solo, very melodic.
so and definitely thinking about the pacing of the tune, so it has some, it builds up to the shout chorus. It's a like a lot of my tunes, it's fairly traditional in format, just intro, head, send off, solo, sax solo, maybe
Yeah,
another
a
solo.
thing that I always notice in your writing is you've always got, I don't know if it's a conscious effort or not, probably is, some kind of rhythmic hook. In this case, it's stopping on four is like "Ba- boo- da- 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 dang, 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 skunk, down, stop." I love how the melody just stops there. Eighth note, eighth notes, boom, and then the rhythm section does their thing. I always notice some little hook, and I'll mention the hook in a couple of the other ones. But
Yeah, I mean, um, what is it? One of the in my jazz ear training class, there was a Jerry Coker book called "Hearing the Changes,"
mm,
and it was like an ear training book, but for recognizing chord progressions and hearing things, and like being able to maybe sit in on a tune that you don't know just by hearing it a few times and recognizing, because there's a lot of devices that are common, especially in the standard you know world of jazz standards, that are devices that are used frequently. And he divided um, things in these tunes. He would talk about glue and hooks,
mm,
and the hooks are what made the tune unique and memorable. Like if you think of, like, say, Have You Met Miss Jones, the bridge is the hook on that tune. It
right,
goes
right,
through all those major third modulations, like almost a little bit of forecasting giant steps or something.
right. Yeah, it's like train changes.
But
Yep,
the 8 sections of the tune are pretty much just cycling around and nothing really super fancy. But you think of Miss Jones, and the first thing you think of is the bridge, you know?
yep,
Or,
yep.
but anyway, so the hooks are the things that become memorable, and the glue is kind of the stuff. Because if you have a tune that's all glue, it's gonna be kind of bland and boring. If a tune is all hooks, it's gonna sound cluttered and overwritten.
Right.
You wanna kinda balance those things out, and so that's, when I'm writing a tune, I'm definitely trying to think of a, a few things that are interesting and maybe a little unexpected, and then some things that are satisfying and melodically, maybe, not too obscure. So
Glue and the hook. I like that.
it's a good
Well,
book.
let's.
That Gary Coker book is a good one.
Yeah. Hearing the changes, right?
Yep.
Or how to hear change. Yeah.
Hearing the
His.
changes.
Yeah. Jerry Coker, man, his stuff was great. Well, let's check it out. Here is Jeff Benedict, big band, Paul McKee on trombone, Matt Harris, piano. This is Paul's chart, Bitter Jug. And now we're back. Let's what a great chart. And the crowd goes wild. Let's get into another one. There's some stories that I can relate to in this one. Let's talk about The Messenger. This is another original by Paul on Frank Mantooth, our good friend Frank Mantooth, the late great. One of his albums called Sophisticated Lady. Now, on the video of this, when the tune is playing, I have the record cover going. In this case, I'm not. I'm changing. I'm going to executive decision. I'm putting Frank's picture. Sorry, Wanda, that picture that's on the cover. Anybody wants to look it up? What a picture!
Why, Frank? Why?
I don't know what he was thinking. He was committed to the laugh. He went for the joke. Hey. So anyway, it's his picture that you're going to see. But Sophisticated Lady, I played on a lot of his with you. It was you and myself and Tom Garling and some other cats, Betcher, and the bass trombonist that would always play with us. I can't think of his name right now. Passed away recently.
Wait.
Well, Tom played on some of them, I think, but Tom Matta, and then some of the early ones. Might have been. There was another cat too. I'll look it up and edit this stuff here. Yeah. But I couldn't make this recording because of a faculty meeting at good old UW Whitewater, and I couldn't get out of it. It was those years trying to get tenure and Eagle Scout badge and all that, so I had to miss this recording with Randy Brecker. Oh, crazy. So, all right, well, let's talk about the tune, The Messenger. And there's, interestingly enough, on this recording, there's 2 tracks, 2 versions of Messenger, one with Bobby and one with Randy. What's the story of the tune, how it came about? It's obviously for Woody Shaw. And why is there 2 tracks? What's the story?
Well, we recorded it twice, and on one was Bobby Shue, and I think, was it Steve Houghton maybe? And then on the other one was Randy Brecker, and I think Bob Rummage drums on that one. But everything else was pretty much the same. Well, Tooth played piano solo on one of them, and Matt Harris played on the other one, and then Pat LaBarbera played on both of them. And so, we did the 2 versions of it, and I'm not sure why he decided. I never was really sure why he decided to put them both on, unless he just needed some time.
Could have been, he might have liked both of them.
I think they both have, they both have their charms, and they're, between Bobby Shue and Randy Brecker, they're very different from one another too. So
a lot of good trumpet playing there.
I have to say, first off, how much I love and miss Frank. Every day, not a day goes by that I don't think about Frank, either musically or one of his famous tooth-isms.
Right, right.
And how much like I just think about like the Whitewater camp and how we used to sit there when he would uh, uh, you'd be introducing players and he'd be playing like cocktail piano, but he'd always
Little
create these
themes.
musical puns kind of behind
Right.
players he was introducing, and they weren't always super kind either.
Right.
But we won't go into that. That's a
Right,
whole other
right.
show too.
Oy.
Anyway, I wanted to write something. I've been listening to Woody Shaw a lot and wrote a tune that I thought would be a tune like a Woody Shaw-ish tune, kind of modal, but
Mhm.
with changes. And that started out as a small group tune also.
That's
And I
key. That's a
ended up turning that into a big band chart. And yeah, and
uh,
Frank was nice enough to record it. What an honor to, what a the one of my favorite memories of living in Chicago in the '90s was all those Tooth projects, because there'd be this
yeah,
gathering of all these great musicians and our
yep,
friends, our
yep,
family, and then some ringers, might be Marvin Stamm or Louis Belson
right, right,
or Clark.
yep,
Randy, Bobby, Pat LeBar. I mean, just you have this great combination. The band, it was just always a fun hang, and
yeah,
we'd rehearse, and then we'd go play. Like we did a couple. I think we played at Fitzgerald's
yep,
a
yeah,
couple
Fitzgerald's
times
for sure.
to kind of get the band tuned up on the repertoire, and then we'd go and record. And it was always just a so much fun, and it was, to me, it's just such an honor to be included on that, because we all loved Frank and looked up to him so much, and to be part of that family was a great, a great thing. So,
It sure
um,
was.
but yeah, I mean, really, there's not a lot to say otherwise about that tune. It was uh, it's a good trumpet feature, and I've used
Mhm.
it when I've had good, trumpet players in bands. I've pulled that one out to play with, and it's kind of different. It's not a usual straight ahead kind of thing. It's a little more, got a little more contemporary vibe to it. So, you
Yeah, and
know,
it starts out with the rubato kind of recitative stuff, which is very cool.
it ends with that too. So I mean,
Right.
it's kind of
Yep.
got the bookends of the
Yeah.
intro stuff, and then it just again, when I'm writing a composition, one of the things that is a priority is creating, again, changes that the soloists can enjoy playing, and
Mm.
and not writing everything so specifically that they feel like they just have to decipher it, but giving them some freedom, whether it's through a modal kind of a moment or some changes here and there, and just so that they can really, stretch their legs a little bit and not have to feel, sometimes you have that, someone will bring in a chart and it'll be so, complex harmonically
Yeah.
that it's hard to get your brain around it initially you know, until you
Becomes
play it.
restrictive. It's a
Yeah.
restriction. Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree, man, and that's everybody. It's just commonly said when you play one of your charts. It's they're fun to play, and that's now we're getting to the heart of why they're fun to play. Let the magic happen. Let the cats do their thing. Well, let's check it out. Here's the Messenger featuring the great Randy Brecker on trumpet and also some Bob Rummage on the drums. Let's check it out. And we're back. Yeah, go.
Just a quick aside here. You can edit this out, but I was trying to remember if it was Houghton and Shue and Rummage and Brecker, or I want to make sure I had that right before, get the right drummer on the right version.
Yeah, we'll check it out. I'll take a look at the recording and make sure we've got it. Let's look into a couple of arrangements now. A project that Paul and I both got to take part in Colorado, in Denver. Art Boughton, our good pal, has a group called the CJRO, is the acronym, Colorado Jazz Repertory Orchestra. And they put together recordings quite often, and we both got to contribute some stuff to one that he called Overjoyed, the music of Stevie Wonder. So let's check out one of your charts, Higher Ground, you chose, and I'm glad you did. And this one's got a hook. It's got that triplet thing in there. Yeah, to me, that's the hook right there for the whole thing. So tell us about Higher Ground. How did you choose it, and what was the process? How did you get into that to say, man, what do I do with this tune?
Well, again, we're doing Stevie Wonder tunes, so the goal is don't ruin it.
Right, right.
Keep the vibe of it. And I, one of my favorite Desert Island Stevie records is Intervisions. We all grew up with that one in the 70s.
Yep.
And so many, just trying to choose a tune to arrange, it was a hard decision.
That was the toughest part, yeah.
They're all so good, and they lend themselves well. And, I kind of went with the shuffle kind of vibe on this, and did play around with the changes in a couple spots, little tiny spots where I kind of inflicted my will upon things.
And you got into the some little double diminished things in there, didn't you? I think
yeah, there was definitely again, I was thinking about, there was some spots where the fad double diminished voicing was the only way to go. I pulled out my little toy box of stolen toys.
And for those listening that want to find that same moment, you can go to the Ray Wright book, or to Inside the Score, or to the actual chart of 3-in-1, and take a look at the that's those voicings right there.
And so there was definitely some opportunities to use that, and I'm trying.
But it's how and when to use those things. That's where the art comes in, and it's so beautifully done on this chart that it was just a joy to play.
Well, you think about the times, especially say a dominant chord. There's that has the greatest number of options as far as how you can use a dominant chord, and it doesn't always have to be the most altered version of it. Sometimes something really simple.
Yeah, it's the best.
It's just you try to figure out what is going to communicate the energy and emotion I'm trying to get at this point, which version.
This reminds me of a story I wanted to get to. Not a story, but just a little anecdote. Is so once again, Paul and I would hang out in any number of situations, gigs or concerts, or just being around each other. But sometimes it'd be at jazz camps or festivals and things. So we'd be in a classroom getting ready to audition somebody or something. And at those moments, you start goofing around if there's a piano there. And at one of those moments, I remember you turned me on to, I hadn't even thought of it, a sharp 9 chord, but it's based on the augmented triad. So it's got that flat 13 in there rather than the usual 5. And you said, yeah, Mintzer uses this a lot. And you were checking out some Bob Mintzer things. It's one of those little moments, those little videos that stick with me forever. But that's where I learned. And so even now when I'm writing a chart, I'll get to the 5 chord and I'll say, well, what do I want to do with this? Let's put one of the McKee sharp 5 augmented things in there,
Which is not a McKee thing at all, but.
Well, right. But that's where it came from. Like there's a voicing that a guitarist, Pete McCann, showed me once in an improv class at North Texas. And it was flat 2, 3, flat 5, 6, and then the tonic on the top. And so it's these 5 notes. And I said, wow, what a chord. So in my mind, that's the Pete McCann chord. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, where can I put it in the chart? but I wanted to bring that in there because I always think of the augmented McKee Mincer Sharp 9, or should I go the Jimmy Pankow Sharp 9?
I just think about, and there's another source for me of I've gotten a lot of stuff from is Mincer.
Yeah.
Like kind of between him and Brookmeyer, I kind of got educated about like the sus chord with the third added.
Oh, that's the best. That's the best. When I had Lyle Mays out at North Texas when I was directing the band there, we started talking about that chord, and he said, "Oh, that's my favorite chord." So the sus chord with the 3, and where you're going to put the 3 up against the sus or as a major 7 above it.
Exactly. Or
It's
both.
Both. That's kids. You want something nice in your chart, do that, but it's where you use that chord. Slide Hampton once said, I was asking him about some chart, and we were talking about the arrangement. And I said, yeah, I wanted to use this chord that's built with the major triad built on the 3rd. So it's a major 7. It's augmented major 7. So like G over E flat. And Slide said, be very, very careful where you use that chord, man. I thought, oh, damn. But it's true. It's like you've got these colors and things, and if you use them in just the right place,
Yeah.
and that's here's an example of that. Since we'll get back to this with Higher Ground. What is the figure that I love so much? Is the what is that thing?
Oh, it's like it's just subdivided triplets, like 1, 2, 3, da da.
Yeah. It's
second triplet, like on beat 3 and 4, second triplet of beat 3, and then first and third triplets of beat 4.
It's killing.
Yeah,
So,
which is it kind of alludes to kind of a laid back swing, like a bassy laying back thing, but it's specifically written out, you know.
Right. Very effective. And talking about where to use it in just the right place. Check it out right here, folks, and you'll hear it done. This is Paul's arrangement of Stevie Wonder's Higher Ground, and we get to hear 2 incredible improvisers, Eric Gunnison and Mike Abbott, 2 of my just favorite players. Here's Higher Ground. There we go. Higher ground. Huge fun, man. Eric and Mike talk about melodic cats, just swinging, beautiful ideas. I just love hearing those guys play. All right, we're going to end the discussion of some of Paul's works here with a beautiful tune, everybody's favorite John Coltrane ballad, I think, Naima. And this is back with Jeff Benedict again. How do you pronounce the guitarist's name? Dave Askren, is it maybe?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, he sounds wonderful on this. So you chose Afro-Cuban. Tell us about, and also, oh man, this is so cool that you began, your intro was the famous ending on this arrangement. Yeah, so anyway, I'm giving the story away. Tell us about Naima, how you approached it.
Well, this one was funny the way that this came about, because it originally was written for a Woody Herman band.
Oh, okay.
And which, slightly different instrumentation, so I had to change it, fix it for conventional big band. But
did you guys record it?
Yeah, actually we did record it on has not been released recording. And I had actually 2 charts. It was a live gig at Ronnie Scott's in London that we did.
Oh man.
And I'm hoping it comes out sometime.
Yeah.
This was in the late 90s when Woody had passed at that point, and Frank Tiberi was fronting the band. And we were getting ready to do a little Europe trip, and about, 4 or 5 days before we were going to leave, I get a phone call from Frank saying, "Hey man, how'd you like to do a arrangement of Naima for the band?" And
nice.
I'd like to do it like a 12/8, would sing the grooves that he wanted you to use. And
right.
It was, there's 2 feelings that are going through my brain. One is that how incredibly generous and thoughtful that he asked me to do this. And number 2 is, how the hell am I going to get this done in 5 days before we leave?
Oh, right? 5 days. Woof. Yeah.
So my first inclination was, there's no way I can do this. But then it's also like, well, I've been asked to do this. I'm going to do it.
Right, right.
And so this chart was almost entirely written without any keyboard, computer, anything. It was just like on, hearing it all in my head on the plane and on the bus and everything, the traveling and getting it all finished and getting it all written out. And, I would have a minute, like we'd get to a gig, and I would have a minute to maybe run up to the piano and play a couple voicings just to check on things before the piano player needs to come and warm up and, get the hell away from the piano. It's my gig. And,
wow. Oh man.
So that was a
high
challenge.
Pressure.
That was a challenge, and not having any, regular, so, but, I had done some sketches before I left of some things, and it ended up being mostly orchestrating, and, but, trying to figure out how to do that tune in that style.
Right.
And, so it was a challenge, and it was fun, and we played it, and I was happy with the way it came out, and it's definitely a different way of hearing Naima, than
sure.
Plus, Woody's band had, I can't remember who did it, but there was a chart on Naima already that they had done on one of the, I think maybe one of the 70s records.
Oh, right. I think I know it. Yeah.
And it was much more of the traditional ballad approach.
The ballad.
Yeah. So this was definitely major blasphemy, doing this with it. But it was a lot of fun. And it was, of course, again, hearing the band play the notes that you wrote for them is always a huge rush. That always
it is.
It's the biggest reward possible.
Anybody who's listening to this and hopefully is inspired to write, or you're already writing, or you want to get better at your writing skills, it's always that. when a great band is playing something that you've written, man, forget it. Just the best. How about, what was the first professional recording of a piece that you did, that you got to hear? Like, this was recorded beautifully as a great band. It was one of your charts. Do you remember what was the first one?
First professionally recorded and performed.
Yeah, right.
I'm not talking like high school or college projects. Big band.
Even if, it could be at that level, if it's a great engineer. And
I remember we did a record when I was in grad school at UT Austin. We did a record, and I had a couple charts on there. One of them was the Tsunami chart.
Aha! Yeah.
The 8 charts in one. And yeah, that was exciting. I did a chart. The Tooth stuff in the 90s.
Yeah. Sure.
And I did Woody's band did a concert in Carnegie Hall and had a bunch of extra guests. And like Irby was there, and he came and played Bijou, right?
And
one of the guests was Tom Harrell, that I heard was coming. And I was thinking, because he was in the band in the late '60s, and he wrote, he was a good writer, good big band writer too. And I was asking Mike Brignola, the Barry player in the band, who was kind of putting the thing together. I said, "What's Tom going to play on?" And he was just, he was thinking, "Oh, we'll plug him in on something." And I thought, man, I would love to arrange one of his tunes for him to play with me. So I did a chart on this beautiful tune he wrote called "Sail Away."
Yeah, I was going to say that's on there. You're right. Yeah.
And wrote a soli on his transcribed solo from the original recording of "Sail Away." Woody's band having 3 tenors and a Barry in the saxophone section, it's a little trickier doing solis. Typically, one of the things that was kind of the Woody Herman sound was having like a flugel or something play lead with the 3 tenors and the Barry for the solo. So I had like Ron Stout was playing the melody, lead part on the soli. And because I knew that, having Tom Harrell come in, I wanted to make things as easy as possible for him. So basically all he did on the track, he played the head and played a solo.
Yeah. Nice.
And I did, I left all the heavy lifting to the band on that one. But that was a real treat. And he was appreciative of it. He liked it. And it was another one of those little inspirations that keeps you going on motivation.
Wow. That is very exciting. I'll put a link. I'll find that one, put a link to it in the show so folks can go check that out or purchase it,
Yeah, it was released, but it wasn't a major distribution thing. So it might be a little tricky to find, but
it'd be hard to find.
Might
be out there.
The CD, but yeah, it's around. It's floating in the ether out there somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, we'll find it. In the meantime, let's check out Naima. Let's give a listen to this one. We know the story behind it now, and let's enjoy Paul McKee's arrangement of the John Coltrane classic Naima. back. We've we've gone deep here. This is now the Paul McKee major motion picture, complete with a intermission. Remember, like you're watching. What are some of the ones like Gone with the Wind, Lawrence of Arabia, something, and there's boom. There's an intermission.
We'll have to get that like that drive-in intermission. Let's all go to the law.
Oh man. All right. So, well, sadly, yeah, we've come to the end. It's time to wrap things up. I was looking in, I've got, the book of stuff I was going to talk about, and there's a bunch of things I didn't get to. One of which was some of our shticks. That was so funny. I looked up, when last time we talked about barbecue a lot. So there's the pig noises. I got to use that. They're coming in. And we talked about the jazz camp at Whitewater, the last one where we smoked the entire pig. And there was a moment where we were at the butcher's that it cracked me up so much. You were talking about, we saw, it looked like one of those miners' carts in a gold mine or something, but it had meat in it, and there's these meat things hanging, pigs hanging on hooks. And you mentioned, like, what if you had tripped and fallen into that and it started going, and you started singing. I had to look it up. It's called the Powerhouse is the name of the tune. It's boop beep ba da da. That's used so much.
What's that guy's name?
I can't think of his name in the Looney Tunes. Yeah.
Oh man, he did a whole bunch of music that was used in various Warner Brothers cartoons.
Right. And that one, I was looking it up just to have it in case we talked about this, and I'll pop it in. But it actually has a name. That little lick is called Powerhouse. I didn't know that. So anyway, you would imagine falling in and you're stuck in there, and now you're on the meat hook with the pigs in that song. Oh man, that cracked me up.
Going through, yeah, right. Yeah.
That's anytime you get musicians together, creative folk, it's comedians in cars getting coffee. It's just instant. And there's a bunch of them. There's a bunch of them where me and Paul, I'd be getting in trouble all the time, just being cracked up. So anyway, we didn't get to all of that, but we got to a lot of fun stuff. And man, your music is loved. You are loved. I hope you know how much I love you. And what a pleasure. Please, big hugs to Angie and Sam, the whole family. We got to see some of Norman. Mission accomplished. It was a great hang.
Well, this was fun. Thanks for inviting me again. And maybe we'll have a volume 3 where we just talk about all the non sequitur stuff.
I think that would be the way to go. Just the hang. It'll just be the hang. We've often talked about,
laughing until we're crying moments.
Oh man, there were so many. I talk about an inside joke. All I have to do is say bonamics, and I start just dying. I was trying to tell Deborah that bit the other day. We'll do it. We'll have a part 3 where it's nothing but the fun stuff. In the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, Paul McKee, thanks so much. And we're going to edit this. It's going to be beautiful.
Can't wait.
And all right, man. Well, much love.
All right.
We'll see you. All right. Bye-bye.
Later.
Man, oh man. Was that fun or what? I say that at the end of virtually every episode because it's fun. This is some fun stuff, man. The age of the podcast. Getting together and talking with good friends about great things like we did today with Paul McKee, composing and arranging. Man, how about those charts? That music. Just some of the best stuff you can do on the planet. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And we'll get together again real soon with another episode of WIESTWORLD. Until then, bye-bye.
WCBC WIESTWORLD.
WIESTWORLD's a production of WIESTWORLD Productions 2025.
Man, you're supposed to be talking fast. That was lame.